Can you hear me? Yes, that's good. So welcome to everybody. I see some new faces here at the center, so welcome especially to those who are new. I think Lama Kathy's objective and the objective of the board here is to make everyone feel connected, to feel protected, and to feel respected. So in that spirit, why don't we get up, walk around and say hello to someone you don't know, and introduce yourselves. Thank you. You're always there to help. Thanks. So let's start out with the refuge prayer. So what we want to do when we come to Dharma, when we come to the center, we want to have a happy heart, a joyful heart, an open heart, and a heart that is really wanting to be of benefit to other beings. And so in that spirit, let's do the refuge prayer, and we'll say it in English 3 times. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. So again, welcome. I think it's the winter solstice. Is that not correct? Is that today? Tonight? Yeah. Longest night of the year, darkness. So in that darkness, we can sort of reflect and think that tomorrow, the day will grow longer. Well, today I'm going to talk about karma, and some of you who have been around for a long time would say to themselves, Dharma, or karma? I've already heard that. But I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about it, including sometimes myself. So we're going to talk about karma. The book, Anything Good I Say Today, came out of this book. And it's called, What Is It? Karma. What is it? What is it not? Why it matters. And it's by Tralai Rinpoche, a great teacher who passed in the last few years. So specifically, the name of my talk is Why Dharma Matters. And I'm also making a tribute to my neighbor, Harley. And I'll explain that in a minute. So I have a friend, his next door neighbor, and his name's Harley. He's a Christian. And from time to time, he calls me up and we go out to breakfast or coffee. And occasionally, our conversation veers into religion. Now, Harley is a very dedicated Christian, and I don't think he'd mind my saying this. He tries to convert me. But early on in our conversations, I had to set up some rules if we're going to talk about religion. We don't talk about it every time, but when we do, we're going to have some rules. Otherwise, we just argue, right? So I don't want to argue. I would rather explain what my religious beliefs are rather than to argue them. So I made the rule which I call, and it's not original to me, but I call convicted tolerance. So what's that mean? Well, we all have our religious convictions, and we hold them dearly. And we're not trying, I don't want to try to convince you of my convictions. And I think it's a violent act to try to do that. I think it's much better to bring people to your convictions by example rather than argument. The other part of this convicted tolerance is tolerance, which means I'm really going to listen to you. And in turn, you're going to listen to me. And I'm going to try to hear what's best in your tradition. And by learning what's best in your tradition, my views might change a bit. And I'm hoping for the same for you. So one of the things that Harley and I have discussed is the concept of Buddhist karma. And in that process, I think he understood a little bit about it. And I learned a lot about how to present that idea. And I also think that most of us have at least some misconceptions about what karma is. So in this talk, I'm going to talk not only to you, but I'm thinking of Harley when I'm speaking. And specifically, I'm going to talk about karma as a basis for ethical behavior. The Buddhist position on ethics begins not with God, but with karma. There's a lot of misunderstanding about karma, particularly what it means. And Harley, frankly, shares some of those misunderstandings. So let's talk about what karma is not. So when we hear the word karma, for the people on the street, it can mean judgment. That's your karma. You're bad. That's your karma. There's nothing you can do about it. It's your karma. It's your karma. It's your fate. It's your karma. It's punishment. None of these statements are true and certainly do not define karma. The word karma comes from the Sanskrit word kama, meaning actions. So in ancient India, when a major disaster occurred or a collective suffering arose within the community, the people would go to religious leaders and they would perform certain rites. And these rites were called karma. Stemming from this collective idea of karma, caste systems arose. So you were born in a caste, and that was your karma. Once in that caste, there's nothing you can do about it. You inherited your parents' karma. And it's within this context that the Buddha appeared. And the Buddha developed the idea of karma based upon his own enlightenment experience. He saw actions and intentions and choices that we make that influence our future conditions, our future experiences. And that is a simple definition of karma. The idea that karma is based upon the principle of causality. What I do now is going to influence the future. What I did in the past is going to influence who I am now. Very simply stated, good actions produce good results. Bad actions produce bad results. That's a simple definition. And so we are responsible for our karma. And so there is no caste system in which we passively receive our parents' karma. We are not our parents, we do not inherit our parents' karma. As Buddhists, we believe action includes not just what we physically do, but also our speech and our thoughts. These also create karma. So all these actions are like planting seeds. That's really an important idea in terms of karma. We're planting seeds by our actions that will eventually arise under the right conditions as a plant, as our experience. Karma makes no reference to a divine being who punishes us when we disobey the rules. Instead, all phenomena arise interdependently under multiple causes and conditions. That's a lot to swallow in one. So I'll say that again. Karma makes no reference to a divine being who punishes us when we disobey his rules. Instead, all phenomena arise interdependently upon multiple causes and conditions. So karma is a broader view applied about interdependence to us as sentient beings. So again, Buddhism is non-theistic. We don't believe in a creator, but in the causes and conditions that create certain circumstances that come to fruition. Karma has nothing to do with judgment. There is no external being keeping track of our behavior. In Buddhism, there are called the four imponderables. I won't go into all of them, but one of them is we don't ponder origins. The Buddha said, I am concerned about suffering. That's my emphasis, not upon trying to figure out origins. So karma is central, and it plays a central role in Buddhism. It provides a coherent model of the function of our relative world. Again, all actions are like seeds that eventually come to fruition. Karma is also very closely associated with the Buddhist concept of rebirth. Buddhists shy away from the word reincarnation. That's a Hindu term, and it implies a soul that is solid and real, and that goes from lifetime to lifetime and inhabits a new physical form. That's not Buddhist thought. The Buddhist idea is that what continues lifetime to lifetime are the imprints of our deeds that are both skillful and unskillful, and they're stored in our consciousness. And that's what goes from lifetime to lifetime. This person called Tom Broadwater ceases at death. I'm no longer there. That personality that's me, it's once, and for many people, they're satisfied with that idea. I'm here once, and then I am no more. What continues is a continuum of awareness that is imprinted with my good and bad deeds. And this consciousness is not a soul, because that consciousness can change. It's not immutable. There's another misconception about karma, and karma does not necessarily arise immediately in our next life, or even the lifetime after that. Why? Because karma manifests based upon conditions. Let me give you an example. Say in the past life, you established karma that would create the possibility of your being killed. Maybe you killed someone in this life, and you carry on into your next life the karma to maybe be killed yourself. So in this next life, when these karmic imprints are there, say you get into an argument, because that's the kind of person you are. But let's say in that moment you recognized you were going to get into a heavy argument. And so you stopped. You paused and you thought, I'm not going to do this because I don't know where this is going to go. And because of your karma, it would have been you would be killed. But because of the condition of your thinking and pausing, it didn't happen. You continue to carry that karma of maybe someday being killed, but you did not create the conditions in that lifetime for that to happen. So karma does not necessarily arise in the next lifetime. You may carry it for a long time, and you carry it until it either comes to fruition or you purify that karma. So we said that positive, wholesome actions lead to positive, wholesome results, and that negative produce unwholesome results. So the question is, what is positive? What is wholesome actions? According to Buddhists, negative action, first of all, negative action requires a motivation of greed, hatred, and delusion. On the other hand, a positive action is an action based upon non-attachment, benevolence, and understanding the nature of good actions. How our own actions will affect future results for us depends upon three things. We have to have the intention of that action. We actually have to commit that action. And then we have to, in some way, find satisfaction and joy in it. So let me give an example of that. Say I'm driving my car, and all of a sudden a deer crosses my path and my car hits it and kills it. That's one circumstance. The next circumstance, I'm a hunter. I go out and I kill a deer. I bring it home, and with my fellows, I rejoice in what I did. And I put it up on, I put the head of the deer on my wall, which some hunters do. In the instance of my killing the deer with my car, I didn't have that intention. I didn't want to do that. So I don't collect, you might say, the negative karma that otherwise I might have collected had I intended to kill the deer. On the other hand, the deer hunter collected all three. He intended to do it. He's a hunter. He did the act, and then he rejoiced in it. He accumulates the bad karma of killing that deer. Now, my driving the car and killing the deer may, well, first of all, in both cases, we kill the deer, right? And in my case of driving and killing the deer, I may collect some bad karma. Maybe I was mindless, maybe I didn't follow, maybe I was speeding, all those kind of things. And because of that mindlessness, I accrue some negative karma. So when I'm not mindful, when I don't take care of myself by considering what is wholesome to me and others, and particularly when I don't consider the effect my actions have on others, and when I don't explore what is reality and what is not, I get into messes. And you do too. But there's no God who gives us the grace to get out of the mess. If you got into that mess, you're going to have to get yourself out of it. That's Buddhist. That's sort of boot camp Buddhist talk here. But if you got yourself into it, you have to get yourself out of it. Of course, the Buddhas and teachers can help us. They can guide us. But in the final analysis, you and I are responsible. And so while that's true, that we're responsible, we don't take an attitude like, hey, I'm such a creep here in samsara, and I deserve this karma. That's not Buddhist. Instead, we think compassion. I have compassion on myself, and I say, I am a sentient being. But I have this enormous potential called Buddha nature. I can be happy. I can become a Buddha. But first, I need to treat myself better through the practice of Dharma. Compassion is the wish that other people don't suffer. And we have to have that same wish for ourselves. That's important. So, again, implied in what I've said is that things are not predetermined because of earlier karma. Tralak Rinpoche compared karma to a flowing river. We may not be able to stop the river's flow, but we can direct it. We have that ability. Karma is not just what we did in our past life. It's what we're doing now in this life and what we've done in past lives. And it's really important what we do in this life, because in this life, as I've given the example, by our wholesome actions, by our not engaging in negative action, we may prevent, that may be the condition of not bringing upon ourselves the fruition of bad karma in previous lives. Now, the other thing you got to recognize is that karma does not mean that we don't seek help. It's like, well, I did this. I fell off a ladder, broke both wrists. That's probably because of past life bad karma. But having done that, even that's so, I go to a doctor. I seek help. So that's important too, to recognize, although you're responsible, you can and should, for any particularly negative results of that, seek help if you need to. Sometimes we may feel helpless in changing our actions because of our habits and our habitual tendencies. But for the Buddhists, there is no reason to despair. The simple fact is that the more mindful we become and the more certain we are of the results of karma and how karma works, the more old habits tend to fall away. When you really recognize and are mindful of those things that are negative habits in your life, that's really the first step. I remember Lama Kathy some time ago, I was speaking to a student that was going to do something negative. And I knew there was nothing I was going to be able to do about it. They were going to do it. And I said, Lama Kathy, how do I advise that person? And she said, tell them as they are committing that act that's negative, be mindful. Even though they're, and the idea there is eventually the wisdom, intelligence of that person is going to recognize that. But that's only because they're being mindful. So there's no reason for us to despair about our negative karma. But the important thing is we have to realize how our actions are connected with results. I mean, look, how many times you've said, well, nobody will know. I mean, that happens, you know. We think we're doing something in secret, and that's sort of a crazy idea. Karma is the result of our actions, and our karma has results, always. And it's really a mistake to think otherwise. For a Buddhist, positive and negative deeds are not so much a moral issue. It's not like the results of not conforming to a divine commandment. Instead, it's more of an issue of knowing what is positive and negative. What brings benefit to you and others, and what brings harm to you and others. Knowing that's what's important. Again, we don't have this person watching us from above. It's us knowing, learning what is benefit to us, what makes us ultimately happy, and what makes other people happy. In contrast to this view, there are three views about the occurrences within the world. The first view is that past actions determine completely our present and future. That's a deterministic point of view. Everything's determined by what we've done in the past. And I've just explained to you that's not the case. from our point of view. The second view is theistic. According to that view, happiness and suffering are caused by not following the directives of God. The third view is an indeterministic view, which is stuff happens. It's sort of, random. And as a Buddhist, we adhere to none of those views. Our view is that we can change, no matter what, we can change our past. Change the results of our past actions, I should say that way. What happens to us. We can change our experience. Now let's look at karma on a very practical level. Let's think of it very simply. If we decide to work with karma, first things first. This is right out of the book. If we want to change our behavior, if we want to be more kind, loving, and considerate of others, if we want to be on this Buddhist path, Tralai Rinpoche says, first things first, prioritize refraining from doing harm. Start there. Don't try to save the world. Start with yourself and start with a mindful look at the negative actions that we perform and go from there and work on that. That's his practical advice. I think it's pretty important. We all have ambitions and we have aspirations to benefit all beings. That's our aspiration. It's part and parcel of our belief that we will reach Buddhahood as a result of our helping others. And our aspiration is we want to help all beings. But let's start where we're at. So looking at ourselves, what is it that I repeatedly do that causes me and others harm? It might be anger. It might be greed. It might be lust. It might be ignorance. Whatever it may be, that's where I start. Because we want to go where the rubber meets the road, and that's a point that we need to address. And that rubber meets the road in this present moment. And so in this present moment, we try not to do our worst. And that's a wonderful beginning. And we need to be truly clear and active in avoiding those bad acts, those unskillful acts. Isn't it better to concentrate on what we can do rather than to struggle with projects that will overwhelm us? And just by avoiding our worst, we're creating good karma. Just by avoiding our worst, by being in the moment and saying, I'm going to refrain from doing that. That's creating good karma. And again, I don't want to approach things with a punitive attitude, thinking I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I should be changing the world. So put aside ambitious projects and focus on what you can do. And that way, we see much more clearly what we can improve. According to Tralai Rinpoche, letting go of the things we cannot immediately reach itself creates positive karma. I just said that. And then over time, just not only thinking of what we should avoid, we can then start generating beneficial acts for others. One of the real insights that I got from this book, and I think it's brilliant, he said, most of the times when we are doing negative activities, it's something we do repetitively. It's habitual. You know, I have a certain way of getting angry. I have a certain way of expressing my greed. I have a certain way of expressing my lust. It's repetitive, rather boring of you. But we do it over and over again. And the difference here is in an action that's beneficial to others is spontaneous. If I truly want to benefit folks, when I walk in a room, I'm spontaneously looking, what can I do? How can I be helpful? And it's nothing habitual. It's fresh. It's new. What can I do to be helpful? You see these people, and they're marvelous to watch. They do come in to your presence, and they're looking, actively looking at what can they do to be helpful. And being with that attitude, you're so much more free. You're so much more who you really are. And so the bottom line here is wholesome actions are spontaneous and based on a need in the present moment, the need of other people and the need of yourself. So repeating what Rinpoche said, when we are engaged in negative karma, it's like we are wearing an armor of egotism that holds us back from connecting with others and likewise with ourselves. So if I come into a room and he calls it armored with me, my, and I, I'm sort of putting a wall up. I can't get close to you. If I'm always worried about what am I doing here? Am I doing the right thing rather than just doing it? You get messed up. I worked in hospice for a number of years, and it was called a program, You Shouldn't Die Alone. Basically, we went into the hospitals, hospital rooms of people who didn't have anyone, relatives or anyone to take care of them. And I remember initially I was so nervous. Am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to do the right thing? And all of a sudden I said, Tom, before I go into that room, let's drop this crap about who I am and whether I'm going to make a good performance or not. And just look at them. What do they need? They're dying. What can I do for them? And it was always different. Sometimes people needed their head rubbed. Sometimes they just needed their hand held. Sometimes they needed to tell a story if they were conscious. So being of benefit to others, consciously drop concerns about yourself. It's very freeing. Buddhist ethics and morality are based upon our true nature, and that true nature is one of tremendous possibilities. Due to our habits, we have done almost every conceivable thing except take full advantage of that potential. Buddhist teaching encourages us towards a life of mindfulness and awareness in the moment. And we move in that direction, moment to moment, being mindful and aware, much happier. Frankly, if we had a full understanding of what karma is, we would be very, very careful. There was a saying, you should have a view that's expansive. I'm not quoting it exactly, but you should have a view that's very expansive, very open. But our conduct and behavior should be as fine as ground barley. Very, very aware of what our behavior is doing. And if we are aware of our creating karma, and I'm starting to get there. If you're starting to be aware of your karma creating possibilities, both for good and bad, you're going to be careful. And not in a tight way, but in a clear way. And that's our challenge. So there's much more I could talk about in terms of karma. It's a very deep subject, but one thing I will say is you and I can't predict what karmic results are from our behavior. Why? Because we're so interdependent. So I may smile at you, and that may make you smile back. And you go out of this room, what will you do? You may smile at somebody else who is feeling despair, and that simple smile lightens them up. So they go home and they don't abuse their child. And that child grows up because they weren't abused. So we don't know what our good and bad actions produce. We can't predict that. And so we, again, are very careful. But we do know that good actions produce good results, and the opposite in terms of bad actions. That thought should make us all pause. And meditation can facilitate that pause. I started talking about my neighbor, Harley. I want to go back to Harley. And sometime he's probably going to watch this on YouTube. I'll tell him about it. I didn't tell him I was going to talk about him today. Hopefully he won't mind. But I want to speak to him directly. And I want to say, Harley, it's Christmas time. A beautiful time of the year, especially for Christians. But also, I want to admit that Christmas brings me joy. I was listening to Come All Ye Faithful last night, and I don't know why I did, but I just started spontaneously crying because it reminded me of old, nostalgia and that sort of thing. Christmas brings me joy, and Harley, I want you to know that. The biblical story about God, the Christian God, coming to earth, humbling himself, and becoming an infant, inspires humility and kindness in Christian believers. And again, I must admit that Christmas time gives me a warm feeling. Harley, I want to say that you are an exceptional example of humility, love, and kindness. You and your wife were at my doorstep when my wife was ill. You brought cookies, cake, candy, and flowers. And you were there to console me as she was passing, and I am deeply grateful. Harley, you and I have different religious and spiritual beliefs, but we are united in our effort to become better people, ethical individuals. We both aspire to bring love into the world and to be a benefit to other beings. Harley, we are on a path leading to the experience of what is indescribable, ineffable, marvelous, utterly pure. So, though we have different beliefs, as long as we are tolerant of one another's journey, we, your wife, and me can join hands and joyfully walk this part of the path to the ineffable. So, Harley, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and Merry Christmas to you all. So we have a few minutes. Anybody have any questions, concerns, thoughts about karma? And you have to speak really loud because I have poor hearing. And I may have to ask someone to translate if it's Yes.
Lama Tom, thank you so much for being brave to talk about this topic that is so misunderstood by me. And the question I have for you today is, can you talk about the comparison between the Christian notion of original sin and the Buddhist notion of karma?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to speak about Christian original sin. And within the Christian community itself, there's different explanations of it. But if we were, so I can't say too much in terms of comparison. All I can say is, from the Buddhist standpoint, our original mistake is ignorance. So, and the ignorance that we have is we don't recognize that enormous potential we call Buddha nature within us. And so for us to uncover that beautiful nature, foundational to that discovery is ethical behavior. We stop hurting ourselves. We stop hurting others. That's foundational. The whole idea of karma comes from the foundational vehicle. So, from our standpoint, our original mistake, our original ignorance, is about taking this consciousness, which I described as always in motion, always in process, not something substantial, real, so forth. We take it as something real. We stop it and say, it's not a process, it's a thing. And with that idea of thinking it's a thing, we have to guard it, we have to protect it, we want stuff for it. Someone insults us, we have to defend it. Not only defend it, we have to fight. I have to beat you up if you say too much that's insulting to me. That's the original ignorance. So, and another instance of difference is we don't have a savior. We have the Buddha that teaches us. And like I said, for us, if we make a mess, we have to clean it up. So it's like that. Does that help?
Thank you. It did help. It did help. I still do struggle with the similarities between what I know about karma and original sin.
Yeah.
But what Buddhism has given me is a recognition of my Buddha nature.
So, having said that, all Dharma practice is to help us to come to that realization of our Buddha nature, our potential, our good. Everything we do, in some way or another, is related to that. My advice is, don't ponder too much about
Okay.
original sin. I've been there, done that.
Me too.
You know, I'm not doing it anymore.
It's not helpful anymore.
For us, it's
Yeah.
not helpful.
Yeah.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to. It's really important that we never put down another religion, ever.
Right.
Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said at the time of my taking refuge 20 years ago, he said, don't ever say anything that puts down someone else's belief. But so what I'm saying is, I'm done with original sin. That may be helpful in terms of the context of their religious practice, and good. But it's not my conviction. I need to be tolerant of that. Mm-hmm. And tolerant also means listening to what they're saying.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sylvia.
Hi, Sylvia.
Before my question, I want to say something. I was raised Catholic.
You what?
I was raised Catholic.
Oh, welcome to the crowd.
Thank you. And to listen to you to say Merry Christmas, I felt like so welcome in here, and you're showing us, teaching us by example the tolerance. So I appreciate that. But my question is different. I feel like right now, at this moment, learning the Dharma is almost like I was blind, and the veil is like opening, and I'm more mindful. I'm more conscious of my actions. However, my question for you is, how do I purify my karma from past lives or past actions? How can I do that?
How do you
Purify.
There's all kinds of ways. There are practices specific in, there's practice specific within the lineage you can do. There's a confessional ritual. Go to KathyWesley.com. There is a confessional kind of thing you can do. And basically that is, you visualize all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It's a beautiful practice. You visualize them all in front of you, and you admit my mistake. I did this or that, whatever. You're sorry about it. You really are sorry. You vow to yourself, I'm not going to do that anymore. And if it's a difficult thing, at least I won't do it tomorrow, or I won't do it right now. But I'm resolved in that. And then drop it. Let the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that you visualize accept whatever it is that you've done, and with their big hearts, they're not going to condemn you. But I think it's important not to wallow in our guilt about what we've done. Because what does that serve? What's important is not what we have done, but what we're doing right now and being mindful of that. So you're right about that. Does that help?
A lot. Thank you.
Yeah, there are many other practices. Are you relatively new to the?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to overwhelm you with all the things you can do, but that very simple confession can be very helpful.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for this conversation because this is a huge conversation in our house, especially with my young adult children and my 17-year-old. And their concept still is the cause and effect. Like, they still are like, oh yeah, there's your karma, Mom. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's like the energy that you emote, like who you are as a person. And, you know, my husband served 27 years in the military, and we always said, when you go out, you're a representation of our family, but it goes deeper than that. It's when, like you said, when you walk in a room, you know, you either bring to the room or you take away, like, the energy. And you know, they always would kind of, oh, Mom, but now that they're older, they're seeing it, and they're like, you're right, Mom, like, you know, the cause and effect isn't really about that. It's like the lasting energy in the room. It's like you can either add to it or take away. So this last year, I've been really keeping myself accountable in that. I'm trying to repair some relationships, especially like with my older son, who went through a really hard time. And I used to like be so upset about the situation. I was like, it's because of me, it's because of me, it's because of me. And then I realized, so I made up a mantra of myself, and I said, it's not always about me. Everything is not always about me.
Yeah.
And so in every situation that bubbles up in my negative energy, when somebody, like if I disagree, or it could be something simple or very big. And so I just say to myself, and I pause for a minute, and I'm like, not everything is about me. And just doing that simple practice has been enlightening, because I don't react and I don't send out that negative energy. And somebody even asked me, Tanya, well, are you upset about this? And I'm like, I might be, but like the situation, I could be upset, but really the deeper the root of the situation, it's not about me.
Yeah.
And so my question is kind of, how do I explain to people when they're like, well, do you not care? Why aren't you upset? And I don't know really quite what to say other than this situation, like, that's happening, I could be upset or whatever, but honestly, it's not about me, like the root of what's going on.
Yeah.
How do I explain that to people, that it's not that I don't care, it's just that I think they're expecting, like, they want a negative reaction. They want
Well,
that.
yeah. So, yeah, well, you're not there to fulfill their expectations that you show a negative reason. So I think it's not that you show nothing. I think it's a matter of your showing you do care. And that doesn't, and to be able to do that, there has to be a certain amount of, shall we say, distance from the situation. And being caring at the same time. There's a rather advanced statement, something to the effect that our compassion for others should radiate out to everyone, while still knowing that what is happening is empty, is not, it's dreamlike. Now that's advanced. You know? So, but for right now, I think it's important that you not worry about what other people think in terms of your reaction, and be spontaneous in how you respond to that person's need in a positive way.
That's basically what I'm doing, is I'm still following up with, like, compassion, but I'm just not reacting in a negative way. And I think that some people don't know how to, they just...
That's so I think you just lead by example and not try to explain. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. One last question. We'll have to close.
I'll be
down.
very short.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much, Lama Tom. Have you been nice or not? Will you get coal?
So, like everybody else who is unenlightened, I am a mixture of naughty and nice. How's that? Hopefully every year I get more nice and less naughty. So let's, as we always do, we dedicate the merit of our being here this morning to all beings. And we do that using the dedication prayer on the back. And we'll do this also in English, one time. So when we say this merit of your coming here this morning, you're listening to what is being said, you're contemplating that, and you resolve to carry that out in your daily lives. That's the merit you've accumulated, the good karma, you might say, you've accumulated this morning. So let's begin. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is, Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way, and all the bodhisattvas, that I may follow in their path, I completely dedicate all this merit. So let's just take a moment, pause just for a moment, and just sit quietly with our mind relaxed. Merry Christmas, everybody.